The elevator doors slid open to a dimly lit floor, the hum of the city faint through the glass walls. The CEO had returned only to grab a forgotten file, his mind still tangled in the $200 million problem that had kept his entire team restless for weeks. As he stepped into his office, a soft tune reached his ears, a gentle humming, almost like a lullaby. He stopped. Inside, Maria, the night cleaner, was dusting his desk with slow, deliberate movements. But his attention shifted when he saw the glow of his laptop screen. The complex financial model was open, its maze of numbers and formulas staring back at him. To his disbelief, Maria's eyes were fixed on it, her brow furrowed in concentration. She sat down, almost cautiously, as if afraid to be caught, but her fingers began to fly over the keyboard. He watched in stunned silence. She wasn't just poking around, she was fixing it. Formula after formula, cell after cell, the tangled mess his top analysts couldn't unravel seemed to fall into place under her hands. A click, a final keystroke, and the numbers balanced perfectly. She leaned back with a small sigh, almost as if she'd just finished solving a crossword puzzle. The CEO's pulse quickened. This was impossible. His experts had been working for months, and here was his maid, solving it in minutes, without hesitation. He stood frozen in the doorway, not yet ready to make a sound, afraid the moment might vanish like a dream. Maria gasped when she finally noticed him standing there. Her eyes widened, and she shot up from the chair so quickly it almost tipped over. "I'm so sorry, sir," she stammered, wringing her hands. "I shouldn't have touched your computer. I didn't mean," her voice trembled, every word weighted with the fear of losing the only job she had. The CEO stepped forward slowly, his expression unreadable. "Where did you learn to do that?" he asked, his voice calm but edged with curiosity. Maria blinked in confusion, unsure whether it was a trap. "Do what?" she whispered. "That," he said, pointing at the screen. "Fixing the model. You knew exactly what was wrong." Her gaze dropped to the floor. She hesitated, then spoke quietly, as if confessing a secret. "Back in my country, I studied engineering. Numbers always made sense to me. But my father got sick, and I had to quit school to support my family. I came here for work, but without papers or connections, this was the only job I could find." She glanced up briefly, testing his reaction. "Sometimes, when I clean the offices, I see spreadsheets left open. I just can't help trying to solve them in my head." For a long moment, the CEO just stared at her. Not with judgment, but with something closer to wonder. Maria shifted nervously, bracing herself for anger. Instead, he gave the faintest hint of a smile. "Maria," he said softly, "I think we need to talk." The next morning, Maria arrived for her shift expecting awkward silence, maybe even a warning to stay away from the computers. Instead, the CEO was waiting for her in the lobby, dressed sharply but wearing a disarming smile. "Come with me," he said. She hesitated, clutching her cleaning supplies, but followed him into the top-floor conference room. Inside, a long table stretched between rows of leather chairs. Around it sat the company's most senior executives, faces Maria had only seen in framed photos on the walls. Laptops were open, graphs and spreadsheets glowing on the big screen. The air was tense. "This," the CEO said, gesturing to the projection, "is the problem we've been trying to solve for months." He looked at Maria. "Show them what you did last night." Her heart pounded. She wanted to say no, to slip away quietly. But the CEO's steady gaze gave her courage. Sitting at the head of the table, she began typing. The room grew silent. One by one, formulas corrected, mismatched data aligned, and the cascading errors vanished. When she finished, she explained clearly, simply, where the bottleneck had been and why it had gone unnoticed. The executives exchanged glances. Disbelief shifted into intrigue, then into respect. One of them murmured, "She just solved in minutes what we've been stuck on for weeks." Maria looked down, unsure what to do with their attention. But the CEO leaned back, a spark of satisfaction in his eyes. "Gentlemen," he said, "I think we've just found our missing genius. Maria barely had time to process what had happened in that conference room before the CEO spoke again. "You're not going back to cleaning offices," he said firmly, almost as if it were already decided. She stared at him, unsure she'd heard correctly. By the end of the day, her life had shifted in ways she could hardly believe. A formal offer letter sat in her hands, senior data analyst, complete with a salary that made her breath catch. The CEO explained her first assignment: refine the company's investment strategy using the same insight she'd shown that morning. Over the next few weeks, Maria poured herself into the work. She arrived early, stayed late, and every number she touched seemed to fall neatly into place. Her methods were unconventional, built from intuition and a deep love for patterns, but they worked. By the end of the quarter, the company's losses had been reversed. The project she spearheaded uncovered hidden inefficiencies and secured deals that saved nearly $200 million. People from every department began stopping by her desk, not just for advice, but to thank her for the stability her work had brought. She traded her cleaning uniform for tailored blouses and neatly bound notebooks. But she still carried the same humility, greeting security guards and janitors by name, never forgetting where she had been just months ago. Every time she caught her reflection in the office glass, she couldn't help but whisper a silent promise to herself: "I'll make this chance count." The annual company meeting was buzzing with energy, employees filling the auditorium with chatter and laughter. Maria sat quietly in the front row, still unused to being in the spotlight. She assumed she was there to take notes or observe until the CEO stepped on stage and called her name. Confused, she stood, and the room erupted into applause. The CEO gestured for her to join him. "I want to tell you all a story," he began, his voice carrying over the crowd. He spoke of late nights, of a crippling $200 million problem, and of the unexpected hero who solved it, not a senior analyst, not a consultant, but the woman who had been cleaning his office. Gasps rippled through the audience. Maria's eyes stung as he recounted the moment he discovered her talent, the courage it took for her to explain herself, and the brilliance that had since transformed the company's fortunes. "Never underestimate the quiet ones," he said, looking out over the crowd. "Genius doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes, it carries a mop." The applause grew thunderous, many employees rising to their feet. Maria felt her heart swell as colleagues she'd once passed unnoticed now looked at her with admiration. When the CEO handed her the microphone, she spoke simply. "All I needed was one person to believe in me. If you see someone with potential, help them rise. You might just change the world." The room stood as one, and Maria knew this was more than her victory, it was a reminder to everyone present.